Brand Entity SEO in 2026. I want us to dig deeper now for tradesmen. Could be a local plumber, and a local electrician, a local roofer. And people are always asking me, is branding and is entity SEO important for these? So I want to go into it. Jason, you've coined the phrase of entity home, and you've worked with everyone from Fortune 500 companies to solopreneurs. Does this apply for a local plumber? And is the knowledge graph optimization and the entity brand SEO important for tradespeople?
Thanks, James. Great question. It's important to everybody, number one. And what we do at Calicube applies to absolutely everybody. Any entity, any company, any person, small companies, big companies, entity optimization is fundamental to the future and your future within the digital space. The really important thing that you need to bear in mind is if the machines understand who you are, what you do, who you serve, and that you're credible, they can offer you to your audience. And if they don't understand, you have no hope of them offering you to the audience. And you talked about the knowledge graph. And we tend to think of the knowledge graph as the main knowledge graph that contains the famous people. Google Maps is a knowledge graph. It's just not the same knowledge graph. It's a different knowledge graph. All the effort you spent on your Google business profile is not lost because Google is going to make those two knowledge graphs work together and play nicely together as AI mode rolls into play. You need to keep focusing on that. And your Google business profile as a plumber, electrician, a local business person, that's your entry point to knowledge, understanding. So that's the way you can get the machines to understand, or Google at least, to understand who you are, what you do, and who you serve. And it gets your foot in the door for an opportunity to make that sale through Google.
But how does a local tradesperson or tradesman, how did they become an entity in Google's eyes?
Specifically in Google's eyes, it's your Google business profile. That's your most valuable digital asset in the Google world. For the other AI, you need to also look at Bing's places. That's completely overlooked. Right now, it isn't very clear how ChatGPT, Perplexity are getting their information about local businesses, but you can bet your bottom dollar that Google business profiles, Bing places are going to be coming into play because they're simple information for those machines to scrape or do a deal with to get the information.
But moving away then from Google, then what about AI? If I'm searching for best plumber in Manchester, how does the LLMs, whether it's ChatGPT or Gemini, AI mode in Google, how does the LLMs and AI choose one local contractor over another?
Well, first they have to understand conceptually where you are, where the person looking is. So you need to make sure the machine understands. Now, they are looking at Google search results. They are looking at Google business profiles. They are looking at Bing places. So make sure those are nailed down because it does feed over into ChatGPT and the other engines. But also, they have their own knowledge. And there's no reason you can't get into that knowledge. So you need three things, and it's always the same three things. The knowledge aspect, which is the knowledge panel, the knowledge graph with Google, with Bing. Get into the LLM training data, and even as a local business, there's no reason you shouldn't be in there. And thirdly, the search results. And it would be lovely to say search doesn't matter anymore, but of course it still does matter hugely. It's one of the algorithmic trinity, LLM chatbots, knowledge graphs, and search results. If you can get in the search results, you can still appear within ChatGPT because they are using results from the web within their outputs. Yeah. So what's really lovely is you said Fortune 500 companies all the way down to solopreneurs and local businesses, you all need to work on that algorithmic trinity.
Yeah, so obviously brand entity SEO is important, whether, like you said, you're a huge Fortune 500 company, you're a sole trader, you're a local plumber, a local builder, a joiner, it doesn't matter what it is. it applies to everyone. And I've got a few questions on this. I just want. Go on.
Can I just say one thing I just remembered? I had years ago a client, a local business, and they were saying, I want to rank for white paint because he sells white paint. That's a really silly idea. Number one, white paint, you're going to rank in Paris, but you're actually in the south of France. There's absolutely no point. Number two, you're competing against the big boys. And I think it's always important to remember you're not playing in the same park as the big companies. You're playing in the park of your local area, and you need to beat the local competition. So even if the local competition belongs to a big group, you don't have to beat the whole group. You just have to beat the one that's in your town.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. With regards to brand entity SEO for local tradesmen, local businesses, local contractors, obviously there's multiple KGM IDs, which stands for Knowledge Graph Machine IDs. You've got the Google Business Profile, like you said, which is for the location.
Yeah.
You've got the actual company, KGM ID, and then you've got the owner. Do you think it's important for the owner or the founder of a local business for them to try and get an entity home and for them to try and get their own profile, which then connects through to their local business? Would you still even do a local small company at present? Because obviously, in my opinion, you're planting a seed and you're hoping that, all right, there might be a local business at present, but they're going to grow further down the line into something bigger. So would you get the business owner for them to concentrate on entity and branding SEO as well?
Yeah, I think number one, you've got the KGM ID from your Google Business Profile that you control, that you create, you manage, and that's the actual location because it's part of Google Maps. And then you've got the company, which could be in the knowledge graph. It's not hugely important for local businesses, but if you get it, that's brilliant because it's the company and not the location. And then the person behind the company or the person that represents the local business, the location, is incredibly important. And even if you're not planning on scaling up, because if you personally have a reputation within your industry, if you're personally an authority within your industry and Google understands that that is your company and that is your location, your authority helps their authority. And, let's say I'm a local plumber and my reviews keep mentioning me because I repaired somebody's plumbing when their house had flooded and they're saying, thank you, well, let's call this person Chris Green. You saved my house and my cats and my dogs and my books. When they mention Chris Green in the review, that adds to your authority if it's understood who you are. It adds to the company authority, both because it's a review for the company, but also because it knows that you own the company, that you're the person responsible for the company. So I would say as a local business owner, you want to build your Google Business Profile. You need to think about the company behind that Google Business Profile, and you definitely need to work on your personal brand. Just once again, within your community. Yeah. All of this, remember, you don't need to be famous in Paris if you're in the south of France.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy because on this episode we're talking about now, obviously there's lots of other episodes for high net worth individuals and doing entity SEO for all them. And people think for local tradesmen, yeah, maybe an entity home isn't needed for the person. But one thing I always love, what you kind of instilled into me is, James, you might go and sell Dooley's plumbers next year. Well, there's one thing that you're never going to sell, and that's James Dooley. James Dooley is you. So if you are ever selling a local business, and you might be setting back up, you've still got your personal knowledge panel now that you can connect to the next business that you might be working on. And that's another reason why I think it's important for the business owner behind the local tradesman company, for them to try and improve their branding. But
sorry, that is lovely, and that thing is you are always you, and that's an asset that you have today, and you will always have in the future. Rand Fishkin has done an amazing job of moving forwards in his career with different things from Moz to SparkToro. He's doing Alert Mouse now. All of that's built on his personal brand, and he built it in his first business. And I, in my previous life, owned Up to 10. That was a children's ed tech platform. My personal brand came with me, and even though I sold that company years and years ago, That personal branding that I took from that company and the fact that I built myself up as an individual separate from the company allowed me to build Calicube much more easily and much smoother and faster.
Yeah. So let's just say now, anyone who's watching this, they take it on board and they say, right, I'm going to get an entity home for jamesdooley.com. I'm going to try and get the business, Dooley's Plumbers, to have that to get a KGM ID and that to get in the knowledge graph. And then I've got my Google business profile. You mentioned before about the Google business profile as being an entity and the business as being an entity. And you mentioned that in time, AI will merge them knowledge graphs together. Does that mean at present, in the current times, that the strength of the Google business profile doesn't strengthen the entity like itself of the business, or does it not? Because if you say no, the only thing I would say is the Google business profile, the more reviews that gets and the better that starts to do. It seems to have a direct correlation that the website does better, and the better the website does seems to do better, the better the Google business profile does. So like, I'd like to know whether that isn't connected yet, when you think it will be connected, will it ever be connected, and why is that correlation, if it's not connected, helping each other out?
Right, well, you mentioned website, because it's a really, really good point. The website is a proxy for the location and a proxy for the business, so it's always going to help both. So they are all linked to always linked together. The website is always a proxy for the thing or the person or the entity that runs it. So in this case, the company, but it's also a proxy for the location. And Google are not going to merge the location with the company because it is technically two different things. So you will end up with a KGM ID for your local business, which is the Google Maps one, plus one for the entity, the company, James Dooley Plumbing Limited, behind that. Then if you look at the AI, because they don't have the same system as Google, the location and the company are more or less the same thing, and they're not going to distinguish between them. So for AI, not Google and not Microsoft Bing, you're looking at essentially the same thing. And even in Google and Bing, I wouldn't really get obsessed by the distinction between the two. You can consider them in your mind as the same. Simply create an about page for the company and an about page for the location. Make sure they're both clear that this is about the company, this is about the location on your website. And then you can more or less forget about the company because they all become the same thing, the website, the company entity, and the Google business profile. And for AI, they are essentially the same thing, so you've got no problem.
Yeah, so I want to, like, obviously I do quite a lot of local SEO, local lead generation and stuff like that. And you've passed some work onto my team and one of my team members mentioned there was 62,000 essential domains in with it. I don't know if it was in Calicube or wherever it was, and it was all going on about niche authority, bit wins. Can you explain that a little bit more? Because I don't even know what these 62,000 domains are and why that is important for local tradesmen and tradespeople.
Right, yeah, well, the 62,000 domains are in Calicube Pro. So we track 1,700,000 domains, 23 million URLs, and of the 1,700,000 domains, only 62,000 have real value and real power in Google's knowledge graph. And I mean, this is kind of quite fun because I give a really good example for the niche, or I think it's a good example. It's a fun example for nicheness. If I'm a poodle parlor in Paris, getting a Wikipedia page, isn't actually going to help me because that's going to apply to Australia. It's going to apply to Japan. It's going to apply to the world. But if I get a page on the Poodle Parlors of Paris Association website, it's clearly in Paris. It's clearly very authoritative because it's an association that groups together companies that have the same audience and goal. That's the powerful one. And if it's in the 62,000, which it probably is if it's a good website that's been well built and is incredibly niche, that's what we find. Niche websites get into this 62,000, 3% of all domains, much more. It's more heavily weighted towards niche sites than it is to global generalist sites.
So if there's one...
I'll just tell you a really good thing is now if you ask ChatGPT or Google, Jason Barnard and poodle parlours, or Jason Barnard Paris, it keeps talking about poodle parlours in Paris because I keep using it as an example.
So if there's one key takeaway then, they're a local builder, they're a local whatever contractor, it could be a plumber, carpet cleaner, whatever it is, if there's one key takeaway, the business owner goes in on Monday morning, what's the one thing on the action plan that you would get a local tradesman now to be doing for entity SEO and branding in 2026?
Right, and it's a really simple action plan. If you don't have a Google business profile, create one now and start nurturing it. Or if you haven't claimed it, claim it and start nurturing it and really pay attention to the details. Then, if you have got one and you've already nurtured it, or once you've nurtured it, think about how you can transfer all of that information onto your website and organize it on your website by its role within Google Business Profiles. So the reviews, the services you offer, the posts that you're doing, your address, how to find us, obviously, all of the information that's in your Google Business Profile, reproduce it on your website and create dedicated pages for the important information that should be prioritized. That way, all of the algorithms will see who you are, what you do, who you offer, and why you're the most credible solution, and you're going to win the game across the board. It's a way of transferring your work on Google to become valuable work for all of the AI assistive engines.
Well then, superb. So if anyone likes this, make sure you leave a comment in the comment section. Make sure you leave a like. Jason, it's been a pleasure. We hope you like the video on brand entity SEO for tradesmen, tradespeople, or for local SEO.
Thank you. Have fun.